All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
When the sun lowers toward the horizon and the sky turns black.
I don't know what hovers over this house, but it was strong enough to punch a hole into this world.
When the normal makes way for the strange and unexplained.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
It's time to question what is natural and what lies beyond our understanding.
You never told me they could do that. I didn't know they could do that.
It's time to enter the edge of the unknown with your host, Mark Henry.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
And good evening and welcome to the Edge of the Unknown. Hey, my name is Mark. I'll be your host for the next 2 hours as we delve into the strange, the unexplained, and perhaps the explainable as well. It's great to be back with everyone. I know last weekend we took a little hiatus with the Memorial Day weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed the festivities in some cases and also paid reverence to those who have paid the biggest sacrifice of all, so that folks like you and I can do what we're doing right here on the Edge of the Unknown, talking about the things we like to talk about. And I know I had to take a little time out to do that as well. I know some people get caught up in lots of fun stuff, and there's always room for that. But I hope everybody did take a couple of moments at least, if not a little bit bigger chunk of their day on Monday to stop and think about where we are as a country, how we got here, and who helped get us here as well. But like I said, it's that weird time of year. It's kind of like the holidays where there's so many fun things to do or extended vacations for people on weekends that it seems like I'm on a week, off a week, on a week, off a week, which is kind of the case because we will be back live again next Sunday, but taking the following Sunday off. I always do this, folks. For those of you who have been listening since 2010, you know that it doesn't make much sense to do a radio show when it is a holiday. And Father's Day is coming up, and I know a lot of people will be doing stuff with their families, and it just doesn't make much sense to take away from what you want to be doing out there and doing a show. And so we will not be live with that, but we've got a great guest coming up next week. I want to remind everybody. And, of course, you can always go to theedgeoftheunknown.com, click on upcoming guests to see who is there. Cheryl Costa will be with us. We're talking UFOs and statistical evidence. If you want to hear number crunching when it comes to what people are seeing in the skies, when they saw it, how long they saw it for, she is the one to break that down. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's never been on the show before, so hope everybody will stick around for that. Again, that's coming up next week here on The Edge. I will apologize to everybody again. I am still battling my crazy allergies, and of course, what do? I go and put in a vegetable garden, right? A guy with bad allergies, that's smart. Let's just add more plants to the backyard, and of course, the dogwood is flying around here in the Northeast right now. So if I have to take a pause, I'm just hitting the old cough button to clear out the throat, and I hope it's not as annoying as it could be. Last time we were on, it seemed to work out just fine. So hopefully it won't be a detriment to tonight's show. We've got a great guest coming up. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation, but I'd want to throw out the numbers early just in case you would like to get on board. We'd love to hear from you. The studio line, as always, 716-218-3557. The email, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. If you're not following me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, please do that. You can always shoot me a message via either or all of those social media outlets. And, of course, live chat going on right now at theedgeoftheunknown.com. Shoot me a question there. If I can't see it right away, it's obviously because I'm running a show and hosting a show and doing all the other behind-the-scenes stuff while being the main person running his mouth. But I will make sure that we get to you. So, without any further ado, I hope you all have had a wonderful weekend. The weather has been good up here in the Northeast for a change. I am not in my outside studio. I'm doing it inside because it is looking like a little bit of rain might be coming in. Pardon me. And See, I knew I was going to have to do that sooner or later. And Lance, the paranormal pup, doesn't feel like going in and out tonight, so we're going to do it from the regular studio. Let's get right down to brass tacks, folks, shall we? My guest tonight is a medical doctor. He is an academic holistic radiologist who is now using his talents to explore warning dreams. He is a consulting associate professor of radiology at Duke University Medical Center and is a member of the International Society for the Study of Dreams. He has extensive experience in the field of MRIs, as well as a host of holistic treatments that I'm sure we will touch on throughout this evening. This is just a barely touching the iceberg kind of introduction for my guest this evening. Please welcome to the Edge Dr. Larry Burk. He is the author of a new book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. Dr. Burk, thanks so much for taking time out of your Sunday evening. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking about dreams and anything else, wherever else you want to go.
And I'm going to jump right in because with the medical field, a lot of the folks that I have on oftentimes tell me stories of, well, this isn't really what I started to do in life. This isn't what I was led to do. To me, from reading your biography, it seems like you had a pretty good idea that you wanted to go into the medical field. Can you talk a little bit about how you got to where you are now? And again, you don't have to go into massive details, but just give the audience a little flavor of where you've been and how it has led you to now talk about how dreams kind of talk about what's might be happening in our lives and projecting the future, possibly.
I went into radiology because I had a lot of visual skills, and I was good at anatomy, and I also enjoyed doing procedures on patients in a way that I could make them most comfortable. And so I wound up going into musculoskeletal radiology, which is bones and joints, and wrote some of the early papers on MRI of the knee and MRI of the shoulder back in the 80s. I actually did the first paper on MRI of professional baseball players with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1989. So never thought I would wind up doing dream research 25 years later. So my career has taken some unusual twists and turns in the last 30 years. However, I did start keeping a dream diary in 1987. So that has been with me the whole time. I've had many precognitive dreams, and I just started getting interested in dream research in the last 5 years or so.
What prompted you to start keeping a dream diary? It's something that has come up on the show before. It's something that I always promise myself I'm going to do but never do it. What was the catalyst for you to say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to start recording all this stuff?
I can't remember which book I read that suggested it, because I became a metaphysical book junkie in 1987, actually 1986, when I moved to Philadelphia and discovered a famous metaphysical bookstore, the Garden of Letters on South Street in Philly. And one of my best friends in radiology took me there as a joke when I was interviewing from Philadelphia, which had the incense and the crystals and all kinds of fraught books. And he just wanted to take me in and show me this bizarre place. And I remember thinking, there's nothing like this in Pittsburgh. And so when I moved to Philadelphia, I wound up buying a book a week for about 2 years. And I'm sure a couple of those books had me start to keep a dream diary. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it's been something I've just done consistently ever since. And I mean, sometimes I go through dry spells where I don't have too many dreams, and other times I'll get huge, life-changing dreams that really cause me to do a course correction. So, and I really would encourage all your listeners to start keeping the dream diary right away, and you too. It doesn't take much effort, really. You just get a simple English composition book for a few bucks at the CVS and put it beside your bed. And the way I've made it the most fun is to write a question in the book before I go to bed every night, something that's on my mind that I want an answer to. And if I write it down and set the intention, and then first thing in the morning and before I get out of bed, think, did I have any dream images, any words? And often if you get a few words or a few images, you can, like a fisherman, reel back in a whole dream, or maybe two. And, of course, write them down if they wake you up in the middle of the night, because despite your best intentions of having a crazy dream in the middle of the night and saying, oh, I'll remember that in the morning, don't believe it. Write it down as soon as you capture it. It also helps you get back to sleep because it kind of gets it out of your head and puts it down on paper.
What about the business of folks saying, I never dream. It just never happens. I'm not that kind of person that wakes up and remembers, or remembers halfway through the day. Do people dream whether they want to or not?
Yeah, and people go through multiple REM sleep cycles every night, and that's sort of prime time for dreaming. Dream recall is optional. I mean, some people just don't have the habit of recalling them. And part of it is setting the intention that you're going to recall them. And there are various different methods to, I remember one of the suggested ways to remember your dream was to get a glass of water, drink half of it when you go to bed with the intention that you're going to remember your dreams, and then in the morning when you get up, you drink the second half. And I've never used that technique, but that's one of the ways of sort of solidifying your intention to remember your dreams.
When we talk about recording dreams, is it really important to capture every single detail? Because I'm sure I'm not alone. I have some really weird dreams, and I'm sure I can't remember every specific detail. But is the idea of a dream diary just to catch the gist of what was happening and not have to feel like you need to remember every single thing that happened?
Well, I mean, the most important things to remember in a dream are the things that seem the strangest. And as a general rule, the dreams you have early in the night tend to have a lot of residue from the day before. The deeper you get into the night, closer to morning, those dreams tend to come from further down in the subconscious and have a little bit more rich material in them. And yeah, I mean, I like to record all the details because you never know what's going to be the image or the word that's going to trigger some important insight for you. And then you can also record it on a smartphone if you, or a voice-activated tape recorder or whatever you've got. And that works well if you're sleeping alone. It doesn't work so well if you're sleeping with a partner. And I usually keep my dream diary by my bedside, and I used to turn a little flashlight on, but no, actually what I used to do was write in the dark and then try to figure out what I read next morning, and that didn't work very well. So now I bought a red LED battery alarm clock, and the red light is great, just enough light to shine on the page to see what I'm doing. But a red light generally doesn't disrupt your pineal function like white or green or blue light does. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind. Like in the dark rooms, they usually keep a red light in there, similar to that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested right now, and I'm going to take a quick left turn. You mentioned apps, and I've seen these on all the smartphones, whatever. It's the App Store for the iPhone or Android, whatever you're kicking. Do you use those? Are there any ones that are better than others? What's your whole thought process on the idea of using an app to record dreams?
Well, the sponsor of my dream research was sort of the Facebook site for dreams, which is dreamscloud.com. And I would recommend checking that out as a good vehicle for recording your dreams. And you can share their dreams online with folks and sometimes get interpretations or reflections back from some of the folks who work for Dreams Cloud. And it's a quite ambitious project. John Mark Emden is the CEO, and he's a friend of mine, and he has found that it's become even more popular overseas in Spain and Portugal and Turkey and places like that. We're a little behind in doing dream work here in this country, to be honest. And he's also has the vision of doing more serious dream research and has founded a dream laboratory in Austin, Texas called Circadia Labs. and they really will be doing some cutting-edge dream research in the next few years, I think. So yeah, check out dreamscloud.com.
Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on The Edge of the Unknown. If you're playing at home, which I know you are, check out his website, letmagichappen.com. That's letmagichappen.com. Why is it that this country is kind of lagging behind in dream research?
Well, I think we are a very analytical, left-brain oriented culture. And dreams tend to be right brain material and right brain activity. And the one good aspect about that is if you're a guy working in a left brain world analytical job of some sort, dreams actually give you an opportunity to get in touch with your intuition, because that's the only time your left brain goes offline is when you're asleep. And so then your right brain can come out and play. So for men, it's an opportunity to tap into your intuition. Of course, it's sort of more culturally acceptable for women to be intuitive than men, but I think some of the most famous intuitives in history have been men, so it's not as if we don't have that ability. For me, I'm not that intuitive during the day unless I'm following a line of synchronicities or something like that, but I don't get waking visions or hear voices or anything like many of my intuitive friends do. But when I dream, that's when my intuition really kicks in, and I've had many precognitive dreams, and it's always interesting to see what's going to come up tonight.
Conversely, what countries are leading the way, and why do you think it is that they are the ones on the forefront of dream research?
Well, I mean, according to John Mark, the Spanish-speaking countries seem to be into dreams quite a bit. If you look at indigenous people, have a fascination with dreams for thousands of years. The shamans have been working with dreams. Interestingly enough, some of my radiology friends from Korea really talk about how important the dreams are in their culture. So, the original dream and health research was actually done in Russia by a Russian psychiatrist. And there was also another, that guy's name was Vasily Kasatkin, and he wrote a book called The Theory of Dreams back in 1967. And he recorded dreams from over, I think, 1,200 patients, and including 40 people who dreamed about their brain tumors. And then Robin Royston was a psychiatrist in England who did some research on dreams as well. Not quite as many patients, but up until that point, I mean, Freud and Jung had been doing work in dreams, but not really from a scientific perspective.
How much do we actually share? As far as when you talk about colleagues from Korea or other folks that I'm sure are coming from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different countries, how much are we actually sharing with one another as far as the research and theory and ideas for further exploration of this?
In terms of the medical community or the general?
Yeah, well, in terms of medical community, but in terms of dream research and the impacts that it have. If we've got folks in Russia who are doing these studies, how often do they interact with countries, outside of their direct neighborhood? The reason I bring this up is because I come from a lot of work in the educational setting. And when I did some master's work, I was blown away by a lot of theories when it came to cognitive development that were coming out of Russia that I had never heard of before, because here in the United States, they had always grown up with the idea of Piaget's theories of how a child learns. And I guess that's my question, and this is really long-winded, but how much do we actually interact? Because it seems like, as you mentioned, there are others on the forefront. We're kind of doing it, but not as much. How often do you work together to try to make that kind of community a little bit more, a little stronger and a little bit more accepted here in the United States or North America?
Well, we have an International Association for the Study of Dreams, which I've been a member of for the last 5 years, and they have international conference every year. The one coming up this year will be in Phoenix, June 16th through the 20th, and I'll be presenting on a panel there with other people who were involved in the book, including my co-author and a couple of people who contributed stories in some of the chapters. And we do attract an international crowd there. It's mainly an English-speaking crowd, to be honest. We have different locations for the conference. Next year it'll be in the Netherlands. And so it's overseas in Europe about once every 3 years. And so we'll get a little bit more input from other countries when we're overseas. But and there are people doing lucid dreaming research in Germany. I think it was one of the neuroscience institutes, and they've been working on figuring out ways to stimulate the brain to produce lucid dreams, which is quite interesting, using the gamma frequencies, which are very high frequency, higher than beta, which would normally what we're in right now would be at 12 to 16 hertz. The gamma frequency might be 30 hertz, and it's the same frequency that's associated with aha moments in your daily waking life, where you suddenly solve a problem or get a quick insight into something that you were been struggling with, and you get this eureka moment. That's associated with the gamma frequency, and also associated with the moment in your dream when you become lucid, when you realize, oh, that's crazy, that's impossible, I must be dreaming, and then that would be associated with the gamma. So the Germans are attempting to put gamma frequencies into the brain in hopes of triggering the lucid dream, and they've done some research on that. So that's kind of an exciting area that's being done in Europe.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got from where you were to a little bit more in-depth working with this dream research, and obviously leading up to this book, but obviously, and this is something that you've been doing for a while. Talk to us a little bit about the process of discovering this idea that dreams might be telling us things that we need to be paying attention to in our physical lives, and how that kind of blossomed into the bigger portion of the research that you've done.
Well, I guess just for a little more background, I'll mention that I started into the area of holistic medicine back in 1990 when I took my first course in hypnosis. And that was triggered by the need to make claustrophobic MRI patients more comfortable in the constricted magnetic environment of the MRI scanner. And it worked really well. And that was sort of my introduction to alternative medicine, because hypnosis was an alternative to using drugs to sedate people and get them through a procedure. Then further down the road, I was involved in the Magnetic Resonance Imaging Safety Committee, where we were concerned with some of the health effects and health hazards in an MRI scanner, including magnetic fields. And I read The Body Electric by Robert Becker, who was the orthopedic surgeon who invented bioelectric bone healing. And in that book, there was a segment on acupuncture. One of his graduate students had shown that the acupuncture points have decreased skin resistance, and gave acupuncture an objective basis in reality. So I really want to study acupuncture, which I did in 1998, and then co-founded the Duke Integrative Medicine Center. At that time, I had a colleague who came in and worked with me at Integrative Medicine. I was the education director. She was my assistant, Polly Delovitz. And she's the first person I ever heard talk about dreams and medical diagnosis. She had this wild story about having incredible dreams 10 years before, where she had spiders crawling out of her mouth in the dream, was prompted to go and have a biopsy of her tongue because she thought she had cancer in her mouth. The biopsy was negative, and the next night she had a dream about Hot Lips Houlihan and one of the MASH doctors telling her to go back and re-biopsy it. We call that the dream second opinion. So they did that and found the cancer that she had of her tongue. She had multiple treatments over the course of the next 20 years and wound up having dreams that would signal her recurrence by the spider escaping from its cage. And she regaled our medical students with those stories when she got here in 1999 to Duke. And then she recommended I read a book called Healing Dreams by Mark Ian Barash, which was a wonderful book that did introduce the concept of women being able to dream their breast cancers. And so that was sort of set the stage for what happened a little further down the road here. So, and that was in 2004. One of my best friends told me that she had breast cancer and had the dream, a precognitive dream about it before the diagnosis, which was a shocking dream of being on an operating room table, having a woman surgeon operate on her breast. She went in to get a mammogram the next day without having any symptoms or mass. The radiologist came out and said, "Your mammogram's normal, you can go home." And she said, no, I can't go home. I think I have breast cancer. You need to do an ultrasound. And after the radiologist refused, they went back and forth a few times, and she said, "I'm not leaving till you do the ultrasound." The poor radiologist goes, "I wouldn't even know where to do it." So she said, "Just how about right here on this breast?" And the radiologist put the probe on the breast, found the small cancer deep in the breast, and was pretty shocked by the experience. He said, how'd you know it was there? And she said, "Well, I saw it in the dream." And then a week later, she went to have surgery, met the surgeon for the first time, and it was the woman who was in the dream. So that was my first introduction to the whole breast cancer dream concept.
Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on The Edge of the Unknown. 716-218-3557, theedgeoftheunknown at gmail.com. Check out his book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. Let's delve into the book a little bit here, but I do have to say this before it flits out of my mind. You bring up Hot Lips Houlihan, and what a funny coincidence. Loretta Swit was actually in Western New York just Friday for the Red Cross Mash Bash. It's this big gala they have every year. And she was the keynote speaker and the guest of honor. So it's funny that you bring that up. It's the first thing I thought of. And I said, man, every week that we do this show, there's always some kind of interesting connection to where I am and something my guest brings up. So that's amusing to me.
That's a nice synchronicity. I like that.
I love that stuff. Why I keep doing this show. So let's talk a little bit about this book. When you decided to take some of these stories and put it into book form, how did that get off the ground, and how was that actually looked at by your peers?
Well, the first thing that happened was I had a second friend tell me that she had a breast cancer dream as well. So, the first thing I could have written off as just a coincidence. The second one that happens twice to another close friend who happened to be a physician, that got my attention even more. And she had this dream, a series of dreams one night of a serial killer first, like, think Anthony Hopkins, one of the scary movies he's been in, and Hannibal Lecter shows up in your dreams. And then the next dream you have is about having surgery for breast cancer. And she went in, again, had no lump, no symptoms, asked for the mammogram. The radiologist came out and said, mammogram's fine. And then he looked at her and he said, "Oh, you don't look happy. Most people just skip out of the room after that, getting information." She said, "No, I'm pretty sure I still have breast cancer. I had it." And she, in this case, told her about the dream. Basically said, "Look, I had a dream about it, and I think I know exactly where it is." So they pulled the mammogram back out and looked at it again, and sure enough, she pointed to an area that was just a little bit asymmetrical with the other breast, and that turned out to be the cancer. So she actually interpreted her own mammogram based on the dream. So that became more intriguing after having two of those stories. And then my third friend actually had a similar breast cancer dream, went into the doctors complaining of some symptoms actually near her sternum. The doctor did a physical examination there and said, "No, that's just normal breast tissue," and did not even order a mammogram, which was a really tragic mistake because she wound up dying of metastatic breast cancer a few years later. So with those three stories, I got interested to do a pretty simple research survey of women, any women from around the world who had a similar story, and wound up with 18 women, which was the basis for a paper that I published in the Explorer Journal in 2015. So that got the ball rolling.
When we're talking about these journals, and this comes up often on this show because a lot of people who write books, a lot of people ask, was this peer-reviewed? Was this the sort of thing that, that's where we're talking about, where other folks are looking at this, critiquing, adding their opinions? And I bring that up before we take a quick break, because on the backside of it, I want to talk about the TEDx show, or TEDx speech that you did, the talk and the presentation. But was all of the stuff that you were doing looked at by your colleagues?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that does come up from time to time, in that the research protocol was approved by an institutional review board. In this case, it was at the Ryan Research Center, which is the oldest parapsychology center in the country, and they've been also the head of the IRB, John Palmer, has been the editor of the Journal of Parapsychology for decades. And then it was published in the Explorer, the Journal of Science and Healing, which is a peer-reviewed journal and listed in Medline and all that. And Larry Dawsey is the senior editor, or executive editor, and Dean Radin is the managing editor, who's probably the top parapsychologist in the country at the moment. And they also have input from various different medical editors as well. And I know that one of the reviewers of the paper was Stanley Krippner, who's a legendary figure in the whole field of dreams and shamanism and various other holistic approaches. So yes, it's published in a real journal, and now it's a survey, not a randomized controlled trial. So one of the chief objections to this as scientific proof about dreams is that there's no control group, and we don't know how many women out there are having breast cancer dreams and don't have breast cancer, and how many women with breast cancer don't have dreams. So that's interesting direction for future research that I'm currently working on at Duke. We're doing a second pilot study, giving women who come in for breast biopsies a dream survey, asking if they've ever had a dream about their breast or about cancer, and that's ongoing work in progress at the moment.
Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on The Edge of the Unknown. We do got to take a... Yikes, I knew that was going to catch up to me, but was way too long for not having a coughing attack and having to clear my throat. Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on The Edge of the Unknown. We do have to take a fast break here to pay some bills, but we will be back right after this. When we get back, want to delve into the TEDx talk that Dr. Larry Burk did, and a couple of questions I have about maybe a little bit of a controversy and something that seems to pop up with TEDx talks as well. And I guarantee Dr. Larry Burk is knowing where I'm going to go with this, and we'll delve into that right after this fast break. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with me late on a Sunday evening. It is a pleasure to bring you the best in paranormal talk. We'll be back right after this. You want to get on board? Give us a yell. 716-218-3557. Of course, email theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. Everybody, don't go nowhere. We're back right after this.
It's a fact. The best sounding music comes from analog audio found on vinyl records. But high quality vinyl has been hard to find until now. Records Etc. in Williamsville, New York is your destination for new and used vinyl records in a variety of categories from blues to Zydeco. Located in the Eastern Hills Mall, Records Etc. is easy to find and fun to shop. Classical, rock, comedy, and new wave are waiting for you at Records Etc. So dust off your turntable or pick one up at the store and start listening to music the way artists intended it to be heard. They also carry rock and roll memorabilia, t-shirts, posters, and more. That's Records Etc. in the Eastern Hills Mall in Williamsville. Call 716-481-7177 and ask for Ray for more information. Records Etc. Tunes for our times.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hello. What are your fears? Are you badgered by domestic affairs, haunted by ghosts or demons, terrorized by those who would use magic as a weapon, or tormented from within? I can end it. I can stop it. I can cast them away, for I am a sorcerer, and protecting people from these things is what I do. Seek my services at sorcererforhire.com. Or call now for faster service, 206-501-0444. Because time is not on your side.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Looking for the best Japanese and Thai cuisine in Western New York? Then you have to visit Teton Kitchen at 415 Dick Road in Depew. From appetizers and soups, simple, special, big, and fusion-style maki, to sushi, sashimi, and tempura, you won't get a range of items like this anywhere. Hungry for more? Teton Kitchen offers a full dinner menu and kushiyaki dishes, as well as a huge variety of sake, wine, beer, both domestic and Asian imports. Owner Taka and his bride Kin are proud to boast that Teton Kitchen is Yelp's #1 rated restaurant in Western New York, and they welcome you for lunch or dinner 7 days a week with takeout and online ordering available. Visit TetonKitchen.com for their full menu, hours, and online ordering, or call 716-393-3720. Teton Kitchen, 415 Dick Road in Depew.
Itadakimasu.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Hi, this is Paul Bartholomew, and you're listening to The Edge of the Unknown with Mark Henry.
And we are back here on The Edge of the Unknown. Thank you very much, Paul Bartholomew. Man, you know what? I love playing the spots, and not because they help keep this show running, but every time I listen to them, I can say, hey, I've been there, and I would not put them on the air if they weren't legit. And I love when people who, especially from this area, say, hey, I was in there and I went over to Teton Kitchen, and it was just as good as that you said it was. That makes it all awesome and all worthwhile. Taka is a huge fan of this show, and that was a match made in heaven. It's a sushi joint not too far from where I broadcast, and I hop in there at least a couple of times a month, and I said, hey, I've got this show. Do you want to sponsor it? And he said, yeah. And once he found out what I was doing. So, again, please check out the folks wherever they may roam. I do obviously realize that people listen to this all around the globe, and I appreciate all of that listenership. And if you can't come to Western New York to go to get some sushi, I totally understand that. But if you happen to be in the area, go check them out. Anyway, let's get back to my guest. Dr. Larry Burk is on the air with us this evening. He has a book out called Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. Dr. Larry Burk, where are the best places for folks to get this? I'm assuming that they're on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and local bookstores. Is there any place else that we should mention where folks can seek out information on how to get this book?
Yeah, I mean, and the simplest thing is just to go to my website, which has links to all those different outlets.
Perfect.
And I have several different URLs. I'll go to the same website. It's also LarryBurk.com or LarryBurkMD.com or LetMagicHappen.com. And on the website, you can also get a link to my original paper. There's a Huffington Post article linked on the homepage that takes you to a link in it that has a download for the paper in it. And there's also the TEDx talk, which you can watch as well.
And I love that on your website, and I've been here a million times in the last week, and I never even noticed it. You have a little box that says, ask your local indie bookstore to stock the book. I say that every week. If this is the stuff that you folks want to read, make sure that you tell the folks who have books and their bookstores in your hometown, this is exactly what they need to stock their shelves with. So kudos to you. I think that's a great way to do it. Tell everybody, hey, you don't have to do everything online. You can go into a brick and mortar store and get this stuff. So you mentioned the TEDx talk that you did down in Raleigh. How did that come about? Was that something that you were pushing for? How were you involved in it? Were you asked? Talk a little bit about this, and of course for you playing at home, not now, but after the show, you can see the TEDx talk that I'm talking about here on YouTube. But how did that all come to be?
A friend of mine invited me to propose a talk in January of 2016. She didn't tell me what topic to actually do, and I realized that the paper had come out. It seemed like the perfect platform for a TEDx talk. So that's what I wound up proposing. And, usually most TEDx talks you have maybe a 1 out of 100 chance of getting accepted, which, I thought was unlikely that I would get accepted. So it did get accepted, and wound up doing the talk in March of 2016. And for those folks out there who have done TEDx talks, it's quite a preparation process. They give you 3 different coaches. There's a personal coach who guides you through the whole process. There's a slide coach who coaches you on how big to make the font on your slides. The general guideline is no less than 60 font, so everybody that doesn't give you many sentences per slide. And then there's even the gesture coach, how to move your hands, your arms, your body. So if you think the TEDx talks look choreographed, that's exactly the case. So after maybe 8 videotaped, 8 recorded rehearsals and 3 live rehearsals, the TEDx talk happened. But my coaches specifically told me to speak as if everyone in the audience is a skeptic, which was good advice, actually. And so I didn't make any outrageous claims. I usually used to preaching to the choir in parapsychology or spirituality or dream conferences. But in this case, these were just anybody who wanted to attend the TED Talk, and since there were 10 different talks, it drew quite a large spectrum of people. So I did exactly as they recommended, and their specific recommendation was don't be Dr. Sedona. Okay. So you think about Sedona being a New Age mecca in out west.
Right.
And most people dress down for their TED Talks, and I dressed up. So I wore a suit without a tie. So, and their advice was good. The talk got accepted to the TEDx website. I got 7,000 views, and it was off to a good start. And then in August, I decided to apply for the TED Prize. And there's $1 million TED Prize to some worthy TEDx speaker to pursue their vision expressed in the TED Talk. So I submitted an ambitious proposal to do more rigorous dream research, and I'm afraid I poked the bear, shall we say, and drew attention to the fact that my study was only a pilot study and there weren't any major research trials. And a week later, they slapped a censorship banner on my my video, and with a disclaimer that did not meet their scientific criteria. And the red banner, when you first go there to watch the video, it seems like you can't see any of the slides. You have to know to click on the X in the upper right-hand corner to take away the red banner, and you can just watch the video.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they took it down off the TEDx YouTube channel, so the only place you can really watch this is through my website.
So my question is this, and I don't want to get too deep into the controversies and all that kind of thing. TEDx is different from TED Talks, right? I mean, the TEDx is usually more of the regional talks and not the major ones,
any
right?
City can sponsor, a city or institution can sponsor a TEDx forum, and they have to follow certain guidelines from the big TED organization, and those are pretty well spelled out. So then they have to go through a process of, and it's a pretty rigorous interview process. I mean, they don't interview everyone who applies, and then when they do an interview, I remember there were like 4 people on the interview. It was like a Zoom or Skype interview, and it was a pretty intense interview. So, but I now feel like I've joined the ranks of other famous censored TEDx speakers like Rupert Sheldrake and Graham Hancock.
Excuse me, I just coughed on the air. That was terribly rude, and I hope I didn't cough over you. I guess I've watched lots of TED Talks, and some of the people that do things in fields that I am very interested in that are not necessarily scientific, so maybe that's their way around this whole idea of censorship. But I've also watched some TEDx stuff and TED stuff that I walk away from it going, what the hell was that? Was that really something that I should have actually been interested in, or that was something that somebody got approved for? And again, not bashing anybody, but it just seems odd that you would be able to do the talk that you did, and then a couple of months later for them to come back and go, oh, well, no, we're not going to really approve that now. They did.
I've never heard of that happen before.
Right? Yeah, it just is bizarre to me. If it was okay for a few months over here and now all of a sudden it's not, it's just a little disingenuous to me. But anyway.
And I protested and it didn't help, so.
Right. Well, hey, I honestly, the good thing is it's still out there because I found it and I got to watch it, and others can watch it too. So if they go to your websites, they can do that. What did you get when you walked away from that, at least saying, okay, we understand this is still preliminary research, but there had to be a level of satisfaction in the fact that that message got out to as many people as it did on a pretty decently watched platform?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, a really good platform, like you said, to get the word out. And once the paper had been circulated, it got more people to read the paper, and then I started getting more responses from people telling me about other dreams they'd had about cancer, not just breast cancer. In this case, I started getting stories from around the world and realized that we were going to have enough to make a book out of it. So that, and one of the dreamers from the study was my co-author, Kat O'Keefe Canavas, who had already written her own book, Surviving Cancerland, back in 2013. 2013, just when I was launching the research project, and she had a book agent, and we realized that we could team up and produce a really good book because we had complementary skill sets. So that worked out really, really well, and we're now collecting cases for the next book. So, and they're still coming in. And but for example, like one of my high school classmates, who I didn't really know that well, she was a year or two ahead of me, Facebooked me and said she'd had a dream about colon cancer. Well, that wasn't actually a dream about colon cancer. It was a dream about blood in the toilet every night for a few days that compelled her to go get a colonoscopy, which did show a pea-sized colon cancer that actually turned out to be aggressive and had already spread to a couple of lymph nodes. So she required surgery and chemo and was cured at that point and is fine 13 years later. However, if you think about it, and she had waited until there actually was blood in the toilet, it might have been too late and the cancer would have advanced even further.
So the book involves 18 women who had these type of warning dreams. How many?
That was the paper. The paper was
okay. The paper
women.
Was with 8. Okay.
Yeah, the book has about 40 stories about not all cancer, mostly cancer, but there are a few other types of diseases in there as well. Diabetes, heart attack, a few other things in there as well.
What were the conversations like when you had to interview these patients who were having these dreams? Was everyone really open, or was there a little bit of coaxing? How did that whole process go to get their stories out in a way that was easy to read and still interesting, and yet still keeping that whole idea of keeping it close to medical science as possible to make it a good read that was also saying something on both levels?
Yeah, we went back and contacted all the women from the breast cancer research study who at the time the paper was written, they were just a number in a chart with survey responses. There were 19 yes or no questions, and then they gave a little narrative about their dream story, but it wasn't personal until one of the dreamers, Suzanne Maria Di Gregorio, decided to interview some of them for her blog. And so we got a little more personal insight into their stories, and then Suzanne volunteered to edit a section in the book that was just about the stories of about 8 of the breast cancer dreamers. So we got much more personal insights into their situation when they had the cancer, what they did, and how their dreams made such a big difference. And that was a lot of fun to get to know those dreamers much better on a personal level. And on my book tour, I actually started intentionally going out and meeting some of them. I had known 2 of them personally previous to that, and then met Kat at the International Association for the Study of Dreams conference, and then met Suzanne Di Gregorio on my book tour, and I just went to the HaydenInstitute.com Dreams and Spirituality conference last week and met Denise from the book there as well. She happened to be synchronistically in my dream group, and there were 250 people at the conference, and they had 30 dream groups, so she just happened to wind up in my dream group, and I didn't even know she was coming to the conference, so that was pretty exciting.
How did they feel about seeing their names in print, and all of a sudden it's not just something that's personal, that's probably just with family and friends, but now here they are focused on a national, if not international, level of, this is an interesting story I had. Did they ever talk to you about how they felt about what it looked like to be in print?
Well, most of the dreamers from the study who are in the book are using their real names. Mm-hmm. A couple of them asked just to use their first name, and there are a few of the other types of cancer where the names were changed at their request using a pseudonym. But most of the people in the book used their real names, and Now, interesting enough, that's becoming important this week because I just confirmed an invitation to be on the Doctor's TV show this Friday. So I'm flying to Hollywood on Thursday night, and one of the dreamers from Los Angeles, Diane Long, is going to be on the show with me.
Awesome. That's great. So I was just going to, this is a great way to segue into that. You're a hard man to follow. You're around doing lots of stuff with book signings and tours. That's a great way to talk about this. Outside of what you just mentioned, what else are you doing as far as promotion for this book? Where can people see you? And obviously, the website is the best place to go to see your schedule. But what can you tell us where you're going to be in the next week or two?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're going to, they're taping this show on Friday. I'm not sure when it's going to air. I think it's within a week or so after that. But then we'll be flying to Phoenix on the 16th of June, presenting on the Sunday the 17th, a panel discussion. And we're also going to be doing a local TV in Phoenix while we're there, as well as a book signing at the Changing Hands bookstore on the 18th in the evening in Tempe, Arizona. And then I'm going to be traveling out to Denver doing a book signing at the Boulder bookstore on Wednesday the 27th of June, and then going to Mitzi's Books in Rapid City, South Dakota the following day on the 28th, which is a Thursday. So that's all I have planned at the moment for this summer. I will be doing a keynote lecture on dreams and a few other presentations at the Canadian Energy Psychology Conference in Toronto, Canada, October 18th through the 22nd. That's a great way to learn about emotional freedom techniques, or the tapping technique, which is my other passion. And I like to combine dreams with the tapping technique, and that's what I'll be talking about at that particular conference.
Which do you like doing better? And it's kind of putting you on the spot. Do you like doing conversations like this, or the meet and greets and the book signings, or is there a preference to do more of the TEDx kind of talk, that it's prepared slides and you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to say, not waiting in anticipation for what someone like me is going to ask?
Oh, I enjoy the conversational aspects, and I also enjoy surprises. When on my book tour in Charlotte, the first person in line to buy a book was a woman who said, "I just had to be here." And I said, "Well, what drew you to the book signing?" And she said, "I had a breast cancer dream a week ago, Googled breast cancer and dreams, found the book in my website, saw that I was going to be in Charlotte doing a book signing where she lives, and she came to buy the book and talk to me, and then she shared that she just had a mammogram the day before, which showed the cancer, and then she was going to go for a biopsy." And so that was made the whole book signing trip to Charlotte worthwhile.
That's awesome. I like that kind of thing, where it's not something you were looking for, and obviously thinking that it was going to be a very fulfilling trip, but then having that pop out. I love that kind of thing. Again, that's synchronicity. That's awesome. Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on the Edge of the Unknown. We are up against a break. We're going to take that, but we're going to come right back with your questions. If you want to get on board this here radio show, 716-218-3557 is the studio line. I have checked the email bag, and we've got some questions there. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com, live chat at theedgeoftheunknown.com, and, of course, Facebook, it's simply the Edge of the Unknown radio show. Any questions, any comments, we'd love to hear from you as we move into hour number 2. And again, if you're playing from home, please check out Dr. Larry Burk's website, letmagichappen.com. We'll be back right after this, everybody. Stick around. Much more to come here on the Edge of the Unknown as I take you up until 10 o'clock each and every Sunday evening. We're back right after this.
Siggy's Good Food in Manhattan sets the standard for home-style comfort food in a warm and casual environment. Located at 292 Elizabeth Street between Houston and Bleecker, Siggy's Good Food offers something for everyone. Vegetarian and meat eaters alike will find dozens of dishes to whet their palates and satisfy their appetites at great prices. Siggy's menu has many gluten-free and lactose-free dishes, too, and everything is made with 100% organic, sustainable, and whole food ingredients. See the full menu at siggysgoodfood.com or call 212-226-5775. Make it your business to check out Siggy's Good Food, open Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., with brunch on the weekends from 11 until 3:30. Takeout and delivery are also available. That's Siggy's Good Food in Manhattan, siggysgoodfood.com, 212-226-5775. And remember, if you're an extraterrestrial, aliens eat free.
If you live in the Western New York or Southern Ontario area and are looking to get a tattoo, then go see the cats at Sixth Order Tattoo in Buffalo, New York. Voted Best Tattoo Shop by Buffalo Spree Magazine, these are the guys to see for any ink project you can dream up. Shop owner Chris Capola and artist Joe Fulmar, Andy Biscaglia, Nick Conter, Jake Miracle, and John Rutsky are proficient in many tattoo styles, including traditional American, Japanese, modern Polynesian, as well as illustrated and portrait tattoos. Have a design in mind? Bring it in. Stuck on ideas? They've got plenty to show you. I recently had my 8th piece of art inked by my man Joe Fulmar, and I'm telling you, there's no other guy I trust with an ink gun, and that's why you should make an appointment at Sixth Order Tattoo today. Call them 716-633-7171 or stop in. They're located at 3503 Genesee Street, just east of Union Road. Check out their website, sixthordertattoo.com, and find them on Facebook. Sixth Order Tattoo, the best ink for your body.
We all face multiple stressors each day, from work deadlines and home and family obligations, not to mention body aches and pains that come with both active and inactive lifestyles. A great way to ease those tensions is by floating at the Silver Essence Floating Spa in Williamsville, New York. What is floating? It's a highly effective and therapeutic relaxation experience in which your body is suspended in warm, comforting salt water without stimulation from lights or sounds. Lay back and let tension drift away as you float in nearly zero gravity while your body is replenished with essential minerals like magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium, minerals vital to our health that are lost throughout the day. Floating at the Silver Essence Floating Spa is great for anyone, athletes, those rehabilitating from injury, or if you're just looking for a new way to relax. Floating is even known to increase creativity and speed up the healing process. Silver Essence is open Monday through Saturday with convenient morning and evening hours, and they offer infrared sauna treatments, membership deals, special packages, and much more. Check them out online at silveressencefloatingspa.com or call 716-568-7985. Conveniently located in downtown Williamsville. They're just minutes from anywhere. That's the Silver Essence Floating Spa. Get your float on and tell them you heard about them on the Edge of the Unknown.
For those interested in delving deep into the paranormal, why not look into the Paratech Store? Located at paratechstore.com, browsers will find the latest in investigative equipment, books, and more. Items go beyond technical equipment. Mojo bags, stone sets, and other curiosities await your exploration at the Paratech Store. paratechstore.com. Visit them today.
Are you ready for something really scary? Stop over to the campfire at Uncle Josh's True Scary Stories on YouTube. Here's some of the most terrifying stories you've ever heard. Ghosts, monsters in the woods, stalkers, unexplained phenomenon, and more. And the best part? All of the stories are true. Got a story you'd like to share? Send it to Uncle Josh, truescarystories@gmail.com. Uncle Josh's True Scary Stories on YouTube, where fact is more terrifying than fiction.
Hi, my name is Stanton Friedman, the Flying Saucer Physicist. I've just been on the Edge of the Unknown.
Well, thanks for bringing us back there. Stan Friedman, flying saucer physicist. Haven't had Stan on in quite some time. He's a terrific guy. I know he's been doing a lot of traveling. And, well, you know, we're going to have to get our UFO fix in a different way, and we're going to do that next week with Cheryl Costa. We're going to be talking about her research and statistical analysis of UFO sightings. Holy cow, is she number-minded. I mentioned that earlier in the show. She's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope everybody will stick around for that one. And we are having an awesome conversation tonight with Dr. Larry Burk and his new book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. Dr. Burk, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me late on a Sunday evening. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, it's been a fun conversation so far. Thanks.
Great. We're going to get into the emails, and of course, anybody who wants to give us a ring can feel free to do so. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com, 716-218-3557 is the way to do that. And again, folks, I say this every once in a while, and I probably should say it every single week. That is for North American folks. I would not want anyone to call that number from outside the States unless you want to rack up a huge phone bill. Your calls are always welcome, but I don't want you to have to do that. I would direct you to please email, or, you know, someday I'm going to figure out a way that the international crowd can get on here live. You know, when I do my live YouTube streaming for my other fiction YouTube channel, it's a lot easier to get to talk to people in live chat, but yeah, they don't call either. So a lot of the people in Australia and over in Europe don't do that, but maybe someday I'll make it affordable and I'll pick up the dime on that. But right now, we're just going to have that number out there for folks here in the States and in Canada. Dr. Larry, before we get back to the other questions that have come in our mailbag, I got to ask, does dream research ever even look like the movies? I've had sleep studies done, and they have not been these fantastic, awesome laboratories or anything. I mean, they set it up to look like you're in somebody's bedroom. But on the level that you're doing this and talking to folks, does it at all look like the movie Dreamscape that came out in the mid-'80s, or is that just a pipe dream and something that sci-fi freaks like me like to think that it's actually the way it looks?
Yeah, I'm just listening to people's stories and recording them. Nothing too exciting from my end. However, people are doing research with dreams and EEGs, looking at different brainwave patterns, and that might get look a little more technical. And then I guess you could potentially do maybe functional MRI scans or something that might make it high tech, but I'm not aware that they've done anything like that. Most people would be using quantitative EEG machines, probably.
I love how everybody likes to think the way that it actually looks. It never really is. But, you know, honestly, it's that way in all aspects of paranormal investigation. People watch these movies and go, wow, look at that. That was incredible. Yeah, that doesn't really happen. A lot of it, especially when it comes to ghosts, is people sitting in the dark, waiting for something to happen. It's not terribly, terribly exciting. Anyway, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. Let's go to the email bag as I pull that up on a separate screen. Let's grab this first one here. Good evening. Good to hear from you, Mark. I don't have a lot of health problems, but I often dream of having diseases or suffering from ailments like heart attacks. My physicals are always fine, and I always see my doctor routinely. I guess I'm wondering what this means and how this sort of thing plays into the doctor's research. Thanks. Go back to the 3-hour show format. That comes from Dana, who says she's listening in Winnipeg. Dana, I appreciate you being on the edge. We're not going back to 3 hours anytime soon. But I'm going to turn that over to you. What do you have to say about that there, Dr. Larry Burk?
Well, that brings up two important questions that I have everyone ask if they have a health-related dream. The first question is it a dream about my health or someone else's? Because it's quite possible to pick up something going on in someone else's life rather than your own. The second question is, if it is a dream about your situation, is it a physical problem or is it an emotional metaphor for something going on in your life? And the best way to get answers to those two questions is to ask for a clarifying dream the next night. Say, just as simple as, is this dream about me or is this about somebody else? Or is this a physical problem or is it on a metaphor? And either one of those answers could be true, and we have examples of all of them in the book.
I'm going to follow up on that. Dana, thanks for being on the edge. Is it possible we might dream something that might happen to someone else? Say I'm dreaming about a friend who is suffering from some sort of disease or some kind of premonition or a precognitive dream. And is it too crazy to think that the relationship I might have with that person would allow me to have a dream that might actually be looking into what's going to happen to them?
Well, yeah, actually, there's this dream in the back of the book, and there's a whole section on dreams about other people. And Jane Contra is a pretty well-known healer from the West Coast who used to be partner with Russell Targ, the famous laser physicist who did a lot of remote viewing research. And his daughter Elizabeth died of a brain tumor in 2002, and has been coming back with information from the other side to Jane and relayed through other people who I know. And Elizabeth came to Jane in a dream and told her that her father was going to have a heart attack or a heart problem. And Jane called Russell, and he wasn't having any trouble, but then he had a cardiac arrest a couple days later.
Wow.
So that's one example from the book of dreaming about other people's concerns, and it does speak to your callers, listeners' question about what could be going on if you're getting dreams about heart symptoms. Of course, could also be an emotional metaphor for some heartbreak that you have. That and the way we would do this in the International Association of Study of Dreams protocol is always begin the response by saying, if this were my dream, I would wonder if this was a physical problem I'm having in my heart or a problem related to some heartache that I was having.
Interesting. I like the way that this approach is, because it's something that I have not really seen. And I've seen all the dream books. I have lots of people send me the dream books, where some are, I want to think, what was one, Zolar, something like that. I remember I had it as a kid. It was my parents' book. And it was very, very simple. It was just kind of an encyclopedia. And if you dreamed of this, it meant that. And then there's these other books that are a little bit more in depth. And there's always like these crazy interpretations. We have an email about those interpretations, and maybe let's do that. Before I ask the question, I'm gonna throw this over to this came in from this came in from P. Good evening, interesting topic tonight. My question is, how can we be certain we are interpreting our dreams correctly? One person may think a dream is a warning. Another may have a more folklorish approach to interpretation, i.e. Native American influence descriptions, etc. If we can't be 100% certain how dreams are interpreted, how can we even begin to discuss what they mean? Thanks, P. P, thanks for being on the edge. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, good question. And those dream dictionaries are useful to a point. They can get you started in the process of thinking about what dream symbols you might be using. But all dreams are really individualized to the individual dreamer, and you're the one who's really in charge of your own dream symbols. So it's always best to develop your own dream language and not rely on what's in a book. There are certain archetypal symbols that do tend to pop up from time to time. In the book, there are stories about cancer being represented by crabs or spiders, and that's a fairly common archetypal image. Also, when you have a dream about a house or a car, that's often a message about your body. And the floor that you're on sort of tells you if you're up in the attic, you're up in your sort of spiritual aspect of your life. If you're on the first floor, it's more day to day, and if you're in the basement, you're in your subconscious. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, when you're having a car in your dream, it's good to think about whether you're in the passenger seat or driving, which does reflect on whether you're in control of the situation or not, or whether you're in the back seat. So those are just some generic symbols that pop up from time to time. But the way we do the IASD, or International Association of Study of Dreams protocol, is to always use, and this is a format that's to be used in the dream group. So one of the obvious ways to get more insight into a dream is to either start your own dream group or go participate in one that's already going on, in which case you share the dream and then get some reflections back from the people who are listening, and then you can pick and choose among their comments to see if any of those resonate with you. And that's the way I'm in a dream circle at the Rhine Research Center. Now our group meets once a month. That's at the Parapsychology Laboratory, and the website is www.rhine.org, Rhine like the river, R-H-I-N-E. So, and I highly recommend starting a dream group in your area so that you get a chance to share dreams with like-minded colleagues.
Is it common to have similar types of dreams? Does that come up in your group often, or is that kind of a once-in-a-while sort of hit-or-miss thing?
What do you mean by similar dreams?
Say that you're having a dream that's very similar to someone else's, but you might have different interpretations or different outcomes of something that might be happening in accordance to your waking life and your dream world.
Well, in some closely knit dream groups, there is this phenomenon known as shared dreaming, in that you may actually both be having different aspects of the same dream. And it gets even more interesting if you're having a lucid dream and you're both aware that you're visiting each other in the dream. That doesn't happen that commonly, but it is an interesting phenomenon. The other thing that's of interest is in certain dream circle formats, the intention is set by the group to dream for one member of the group who has a problem. And they will state the problem to the group, and this is based on the work of Henry Reed, who's a famous dream researcher from the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the Edward Casey Center in Virginia Beach. And he lives in Virginia, but he's been promoting this dream circle concept that you would intentionally dream for one of the members of the group each time that the circle meets. And then you get together the next day and compare notes to see what aspects of the dream relate to the target person's issue that they're dealing with. But that's quite a phenomenal process.
From your research, do certain people have an ability to retain their dreams more so than others? Is there any kind of statistical analysis that you've done or are familiar with that points to some folks kind of hold on to what happens in their sleep more so than others?
The journal Dreaming may have some articles about that particular topic. It is a peer-reviewed journal, and they do a lot of statistical analysis. I don't have access to that information currently, but I do know that there's a large spectrum and variety of the way people dream. It's reflected in the book. Some people have epic dreams, and these may take you half an hour to write down. Other people get their message just as a word or a phrase and don't even remember any images. Other people get precognitive dreams that are very vivid, detailed, and come true exactly word for word a couple days or even a couple weeks later. And that might be the explanation for the deja vu phenomenon people report. They may have had a dream about something and forgotten it and then recognize it when it happens a few days later. And other people will get more symbolic dreams that are a little harder to figure out. So everybody has their own style, and you may vary from one style to another in the same night or over a period of days.
Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on the Edge of the Unknown. His book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, found at all of your finer bookstores and, of course, online. Go to his website for all of those links, letmagichappen.com. Let's grab a quick call here. We're going to go to the 716. Good evening. You're on the Edge of the Unknown. Who's this?
Hey, Mark. This is Lovejoy Dave.
Hey, Dave. You're on with Dr. Larry Burk.
Dr. Larry Burk, I have a question for you, and you just talked about this, about people having connected dreams. My daughter and I have this happen constantly, where we have the same dreams at the same time, the same day, but they're also premonition dreams. And I was just wondering how that works. And also, I keep on having, and I've never met Mark personally, but I have bad dreams, premonitions about Mark going to, and I know you hate this, Mark, going to the Hinsdale house in Olean, and it doesn't fare well for him there. So I was just wondering if you could enlighten me on this.
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Now, you and your daughter have premonition dreams, and did they come true?
Yes. Actually,
for instance?
Yes. About 2 weeks ago, and it's all over the news, we both had dreams about somebody being murdered in my neighborhood. And it was funny because I picked my daughter up from work, and she was telling me about the dream. And this was about 2 weeks ago, and we both had the same dream. And just let me see, Sunday, Friday night, a person was shot, murdered in my neighborhood, and we had both. Okay, so this happens quite often. We also had the day of the Vegas shooting. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 3 days prior, we had dreams about the shooting, and I'm telling you, it freaked me out because I turned on the news when I got up for work, and they were showing the Vegas shooting.
And I would probably call those dreams, rather than connected dreams, I would say they were just mutual premonitions. If you had a dream about something that wasn't a premonition, there was just some random topic that you were both dreaming about that had nothing to do with the future, that would be more of a shared dream. But when it comes to premonitions about disasters, those things are actually very common. And the most common premonition dream in the last couple decades was thousands of people dreamed about 9/11 before it happened. So yeah, I mean, I think you and your daughter both are tapping into your intuitive abilities when you're asleep. And what I would probably recommend you do is to play the ask a question game before you go to sleep. And you might want to experiment with both asking the same question and see if you both get the same information. That would be a nice experiment to do.
Okay, but here's on that, and okay, because I do have a degree in physiology, and the thing is, wouldn't that be more considered like a suggestive thing, so that I told my daughter to dream about polar bears dancing in our pool, and then we both had a dream because it was suggested. Wouldn't that be the case?
No, I mean, ask a question like, "What's important for me to know tomorrow?" Or
I understand. Okay, I understand.
Or come up with a question that you're both puzzling over that you don't know the answer to. And
okay.
That would be an interesting experiment.
Okay, but now, do you suggest keeping a journal of these dreams?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're getting good information like you're getting. I would, because also when you write down dreams and then you experiencing something later, you may even find out you're having even more premonitions than you realize because you haven't been paying attention to them, and you may have. Writing them down. You can always go back and look at them. And say, I often go back and scan through my dream diary just to see what I dreamed in the last couple of weeks, and sure enough, some of those things turn out to be premonitions that I didn't even remember.
So what about the dreams about Mark? And I don't even, I know Mark only from the radio show.
Yeah, well, I'd ask this question, is this a emotional metaphor, something that's going on in my life? In other words, sometimes when we dream about other people, we're dreaming about what that person symbolizes in my life. And one of the most powerful ways of dream interpretation is assuming that every character in your dream is a part of you. That's one way of doing it from sort of a Jungian or psychodynamic point of view, is just think of every character in your dream as some aspect of you. So if you were assuming Mark was that aspect of you, what the paranormal part of me that's interested in these sorts of things is appearing in my dream. What does that mean to what's going on in my life today? So that's, I mean, yeah, sure, you could be picking up some psychic premonition about what's going to happen in Mark's life, but it's probably more likely that you're picking up something that's going on in your own life.
The only thing is, and I'm going to get off there because I'm going to hear more about what you have to say. It's just that the premonition I have about Mark is, I don't know what the Hinsdale house is, but it's a demonically possessed, allegedly a demonically possessed home. And he wants to go there, and I don't want him to go there because the dreams are not good for me about him going there. And I've told, and it's funny because it's the third time this has come up in the last 4 weeks.
And it's interesting that when we dream about other people, there's also sort of an ethical dilemma that you have to deal with in terms of, let's say you're dreaming about your next door neighbor, and not Mark on the show, who he's interested in these kinds of strange things. He might take you seriously and check out the house to see if it's possessed. Now, if you dream about your next door neighbor who doesn't believe in any of this stuff, then you got a real dilemma as to, am I even going to tell somebody? He's going to think I'm nuts. And even if I do tell him, is that a good idea? So it's, I think, and I'm curious to see what Mark would say about this. So.
Okay, I'm going to go off the air. Thank you, Mark, for taking my call. You are a great guest. I mean, this is something I've always wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you,
good night,
Dave.
Mark.
Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good week. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, 716-218-3557. I really don't know what to say to that. How do I feel about that? Without insulting Dave, because Dave is an intelligent guy. He's been here since day one of the show. He's listened for many years. I guess I appreciate the thought. I appreciate the concern. But again, I don't know how much stock I can put into someone else's feeling or dream about me going or doing or whatever. And
now, what might be a fun thing for you to do, and just practical, is just when you go to sleep tonight, write a question in your dream. Start your dream diary, and write a question down. Say, what am I supposed to make of that? And see if you get an answer tonight.
I'm going to try that. I will. I am totally open to experimentation and trying something like that. That would.
Now remember, though, Yoda would say there is no try, only do or do not.
Well, there you go. So I will do that tonight. How's that? There you go. I like that. Perfect. Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on the Edge of the Unknown. Go to his website, letmagichappen.com. See where he's going to be out and about in the next couple of weeks, talking about his book, signing his book. And that book is called Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, co-authored by Kathleen O'Keefe Canavos. So you guys can go and check that out and do that while we have to take a break and step aside here. We've got one more segment coming up. I hope everybody's having a good time out in Radioland. It's awesome to have you here with us tonight, and we've got much more to talk about as we go. 716-218-3557 is the phone number for you to get on board. Of course, you can always email theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. edgeoftheunknown.com. Find me on Facebook, Edge of the Unknown Radio Show, and of course also on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me, I'll follow you back, and you can keep up to date on everything that is happening here on the Edge of the Unknown. Coming up next week, Cheryl Costa as we delve into UFOs and their statistical evidence. Back right after this, everybody. Stick around. Thanks for hanging out with me late on a Sunday evening. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk anywhere. It's the Edge of the Unknown.
Looking for the best Japanese and Thai cuisine in Western New York? Then you have to visit Teton Kitchen at 415 Dick Road in Depew. From appetizers and soups, simple, special, big, and fusion-style maki, to sushi, sashimi, and tempura, you won't get a range of items like this anywhere. Hungry for more? Teton Kitchen offers a full dinner menu and kushiyaki dishes, as well as a huge variety of sake, wine, beer, both domestic and Asian imports. Owner Taka and his bride Kin are proud to boast that Teton Kitchen is Yelp's #1 rated restaurant in Western New York, and they welcome you for lunch or dinner 7 days a week with takeout and online ordering available. Visit tetonkitchen.com for their full menu, hours, and online ordering, or call 716-393-3720. Teton Kitchen, 415 Dick Road in Depew.
Itadakimasu. No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hello. What are your fears? Are you badgered by domestic affairs, haunted by ghosts or demons, terrorized by those who would use magic as a weapon, or tormented from within? I can end it. I can stop it. I can cast them away, for I am a sorcerer, and protecting people from these things is what I do. Seek my services at sorcererforhire.com or call now for faster service 206-501-0444, because time is not on your side.
The Hope Project of Western New York is a resource for struggling families often identified as the working poor. We assist individuals who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own, disabled individuals, households with special needs members, victims of domestic violence in transition, and our military families and veterans. The Hope Project provides our members with gently used clothing, household supplies and toys, as well as hygiene and cleaning supplies. We also make available specialty items like prom dresses and Halloween costumes. These items are provided at zero cost to our members. How can you help? By donating items at our storefront, 4545 Transit Road in Williamsville, New York, inside the Eastern Hills Mall. Store hours, Monday 10 to 2, Tuesday 11 to 2, Wednesday 10 to 8, Thursday 10 to 2, and Saturday 10 to 2. Closed on all school holidays. Clothing should be contemporary, free of stains and tears, and household items must be in good condition and in working order. We also accept grocery and department store gift cards, as well as monetary donations. You can also help out by becoming a volunteer. For more information, visit our website at thehopeprojectofwny.org or call us at 716-810-9156. The Hope Project of Western New York. Dignified help for those in need.
Hi, this is Thomas Fusco, author of The Theory of Supergeometry, and you are listening to The Edge of the Unknown.
And into our last segment of this evening we go here on The Edge of the Unknown. With my guest, Dr. Larry Burk, we've been talking all evening about his book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life. More information on that at letmagichappen.com. We're going to get right back into things because we do have some more questions in the email bag. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. You want to give a call in as Dave did? Feel free to do so. 716-218-3557. Dr. Burk, what is the underlying advice you would have, and what should people do when they do have these dreams that sound like there's something going on? What's the kinds of things that you tell them to do, how they should react when they do have the dreams that we're talking about this evening?
Well, the dreams that were most compelling in the 18 women who were in the breast cancer study were the most vivid dreams they've ever had in their life. They were realistic and had a sense of menace or dread in them. They also sometimes had the words cancer or tumor used in the dream, and sometimes there was a sense of physical contact with the breast. So those are the typical characteristics of what we see in the warning dreams. Still means it's useful to ask those other two questions I mentioned. Is it a dream about me or someone else? Is it a metaphor, or is it a physical problem? And once you've done that and are pretty convinced that it is about you and you may have a health problem, then it's a good idea to share that with an open-minded doctor if you can find one. And some doctors are going to be totally closed to the idea that a dream could be useful, and others are not. I think you just have to inquire and find out what your doctor thinks about the fact that you're being guided by a dream.
Can you still get medical procedures because you want them? Or does that, which is a weird question because I have to go through the same kinds of things that a lot of other people do, but not obviously on the same level as a cancer patient. But if I walked to my doctor and said, hey, I'd like to see a different allergist, as my allergies attack me the minute I say that, and usually they're open to that. If I said, hey, I'd like to get a CAT scan, I'd like to get an MRI, are they obligated in any way to help you with that just because you feel like that you need one? Or does that have to be something that they agree that you really do need one? I guess is a really odd way to ask that question.
I'd say you need to consider your relationship with your doctor as a partnership, and hopefully you have a partner who you can work with. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get everything you ask for, and there's a time and a place for getting a second opinion. If you don't agree with what a particular doctor is doing with you, you can always, they're your employee, so you can employ someone else if you like. And I think there are examples in the book, actually, of particularly my co-author was having difficulty getting the test she thought she needed, and wound up getting some advice from her dream guides, who are very unusual. She has Franciscan monk dream guides, and they're very stern and persistent. And when she complained to them that the doctor was never going to listen to her, they one of them reached into his sleeve and pulled out a tiny white feather, handed it to her, and said, "Use this feather like a sword to fence with your doctor as if you were a lawyer going before an unsympathetic judge and you needed to win the case. And you'll get the test you need." So she went back to her doctor, who thought she was crazy and overly anxious about the possibility of having breast cancer. And she pulled the feather out in the middle of the conversation, waved it at him, this imaginary dream feather, and he changed his mind and agreed to do exploratory surgery on her, which was quite a big step for any doctor to do, exploratory surgery without having any place on the imaging studies to confirm the reason for the surgery. And sure enough, he went in expecting to find nothing and came out finding the cancer. So.
How do their tunes change after something like that happens? Is that also explored in the book, where we get the story and then the guy who's not so sure about this, but then his eyes are opened? Do they ever come back and say, wow, that was something, or do they just chalk it up as something completely else?
I think the ones that are in real denial are going to dismiss it as just an anomaly, whereas other ones who might have a little bit of open mind are truly, moved by that experience. So yeah, I think it's a whole variety of responses that we get. But I do encourage people to have the courage to share their dreams with their doctor. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the paper in the medical journal. You can take a copy of my paper into your doctor and say, look, there's at least 18 women who had dreams like this about the breast cancer, so there's probably a lot more people out there who have had these kind of dreams.
Interesting. Let's grab another email here, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. We already read that one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is from Lindsay. Lindsay says, hi, I frequently have nightmares. Are these different from dreams? Are their meanings also different? Has Dr. Burk included nightmares in his book? Thank you very much, Lindsay. Lindsay, thanks for being on the Edge.
Well, I would say that most of the warning dreams in the book would be considered nightmares by most people. And I don't really think of any dream as being, what should I say, a scary dream that has no purpose. Like sometimes we'll say in the dream interpretation world, there's no such thing as a bad dream. All dreams are important, and the ones that are scary or nightmares are that way to get your attention. And so generally, if you're having a nightmare about something, there's something in your life that you want to make a course correction about. If you're having good dreams, healing dreams, wonderful dreams, you can just take that as reinforcement that you're on the right track. But scary dreams are there to inspire you to do a course correction or go get a medical test if you need one.
I've got a question that just popped up with that in your answer. Do dreams like this happen during times when there's a corresponding waking traumatic experience, or are the two separate from your research?
If you're having, certainly traumas like PTSD from the war are going to trigger nightmares, which is the body's way of telling you need to heal the PTSD, and you're going to keep having these flashbacks until you do. So yeah, I mean that connection is pretty obvious between waking trauma and traumatic nightmares. So that's a pretty well understood phenomenon. But the I give you an example of one of my best friends, who's one of my MRI technologists, had I would say a neutral dream, a dream that was ambiguous. It was a dream about giving birth. Puzzling to her because she was in her late 50s and postmenopausal. So she knew that was impossible. And so she assumed it was some kind of a emotional metaphor for a creative art project she was working on. She does rug hooking and other artistic ventures. So that was the most likely explanation, since it wasn't possible for her to be actually giving birth, and it was probably some project she was giving birth to. But she's an experienced dreamer and knew about asking clarifying dreams, so she did that the next night. And then she had a nightmare. She was taken to a graveyard in Ireland, shown a headstone in a cemetery, surrounded by daisies, and heard the dream voice say, if you don't take action on that warning dream about giving birth last night, you'll be pushing up these daisies soon. So she did go to her doctor. She had no symptoms, shared it with her doctor, who did an ultrasound and found the endometrial cancer of her uterus, which ironically was operated on a couple of days later, and opting not to do the usual abdominal surgery, which would leave her with a scar, but instead did what's known as a vaginal hysterectomy, where the uterus is essentially delivered through the vagina, essentially giving birth to the tumor, like in the dream. So that was particularly amazing example of a clarifying dream, and in this case, a nightmare.
Dr. Larry Burk, my guest here on The Edge of the Unknown. You mentioned this a while back, and it's my fault for not following up on it, but hey, no time like the present. Dream tapping. Can you expound on what you meant by dream tapping?
Okay, so yeah, I've been doing emotional freedom techniques, or EFT, the tapping technique, since 2002. It's probably the most popular technique around the world for dealing with trauma like PTSD and other anxiety-related issues. And sometimes when I'm interviewing someone, it takes me a little while to figure out what exactly it is they need to tap on to get that particular trauma out of their system. And I think of it as a malware program. It gets downloaded into your acupuncture meridians, uploaded into your limbic system in your brain, and is up there with a file that has a picture in it, a story, and this program that runs when you don't want it to run. So by doing when we do the tapping, you focus on the name of the file, which runs the program, and then you hit the delete key over and over again by tapping on your acupuncture meridians, and you essentially uninstall the program. Sometimes it's a little challenging to figure out exactly which program you need to uninstall to get the relief that you're looking for. So I'll often combine the tapping with dream work and have people keep a dream diary and bring their most disturbing dreams in, and that's often the clue as to what we should be tapping on. So that's my dream tapping coaching that I do either in person at my wife's office here in North Carolina, or I do it via Skype as well.
I've had other experts on talking about dreams, specifically a gentleman named Robert Wagner, who talks a lot about lucid dreaming and how to lucid dream. Is that something else that you might recommend, that people try to take that technique to try to delve into the meanings of what's going on, as not just write down what happened afterwards, but actively participate as best they can with the dreams that they're having?
Well, I guess it counts as a minor synchronicity in that Robert Wagner's a good friend of mine and my lucid dream teacher. So.
Awesome. Look at that. See, there's two tonight. Awesome.
Yeah. And his two books are wonderful in teaching about the subject. And I've only had a very few lucid dreams. And his book has some good clues as to how to trigger lucid dreams. And the trick is really, as I mentioned earlier, the left brain tends to go offline when you're dreaming, so all kinds of bizarre things happen, and you don't question that it's a bit unusual. But the secret to lucid dreaming is to have an aha moment where you go, wait a minute, my grandmother died 5 years ago. What's she doing in my dream? This must be a dream. Or one of Robert's examples is there's the dinosaur walking through the stacks in his high school library, and he goes, wait a minute, they're extinct, So catching yourself and bringing your critical thinking back online just enough to, and actually if you have a burst of gamma frequencies in your brain at that time, you might be more likely to develop that moment of critical thinking. So lucid dreaming is considered an advanced spiritual practice by the Tibetans and considered to be a form of dream yoga. So I think it's worth cultivating that skill as it has many creative applications. So I'm glad to hear you've had Robert on the show.
Oh, yeah, he's been on a couple of times. It's funny, I haven't spoken with him in a couple of years, so I do have to ask, how did you meet him? Was it just part of this research, or was it happenstance in some other circumstance?
I met him at the International Association for the Study of Dreams meeting. He's a past president of that organization. We used to have breakfast together at the conferences, and then he came to Durham a couple times for the Rhine Research Center and for another conference that we have here occasionally. So he's really has a wonderful opportunity to go around the world sharing lucid dreaming with people, which is just a great. He's a retired businessman, and that's what he does now.
Well, I'm going to have to reach out to him to see if he can come back on because, like I said, it's probably been at least 3 years since he's been on the Edge. But that's awesome. So I'm glad that somebody else knows him too. Again, I love these little synchronous sorts of things that happen here on the Edge. So I'm going to grab another email here while we have a couple of minutes left. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com, 716-218-3557, your chance to get on board before we wrap things up here at 10 o'clock on the East Coast for this episode of The Edge of the Unknown. Well, let's go back to, actually it's going to come back to my area. This comes from, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Arnest in Buffalo. I have seen Dr. Burk's presentation online, and I'm wondering why he bothered to do a TED Talk when they are notoriously strict about censoring content, despite the fact they agree to have speakers they'll likely disagree with. Also, can either of you explain how they decide what is okay and what is not when it seems they justify their decisions with vague claims of, this is not accepted in scientific circles? Does anyone ask them to back that stance up with stats? Hope you can ask this of the doctor. Arnest in Buffalo, thanks for being on the Edge. That's a lot of questions. I'm going to let the doctor tackle those first before I even attempt to share my opinion.
Well, I share her frustration, and it is fairly arbitrary decision-making. They don't need to justify it to anyone, and they don't need to really even respond to the speaker's queries about their decisions. It's totally up to them. I can tell you things that will get your talk censored is if you roll out on the stage in a wheelchair and then discuss your miraculous healing and get up out of the wheelchair halfway through your talk. That'll get you censored. That happened to Dr. Lisa Wall, who talked about curing her MS with a vegetarian, heavily vegetable-based diet, and that talk has over 1 million views now since it's been censored. So I'm hoping my talk is destined for that kind of fate.
I just saw something else that someone else talked about, their diet changing the diagnosis of cancer. I mean, this was recent, and I don't think it's the same person. Oh, I'm going to kick myself for not saving that link, but I'm pretty sure I just saw that in mainstream media, at least on one of the media aggregators that I check out every day. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. I don't think it's the same person, but that's interesting. Rupert Sheldrake also had a lot of issues with that as well. I know you mentioned him before, that he kind of got roasted for some of the things that he said, and that goes back and forth not only in shows like this, in journals, but also in Wikipedia. People are still fighting over his presentation, which I find fascinating that happened years ago.
I mean, Rupert's one of the smartest people I know. So and he also is a Cambridge level debater, and he generally tends to eat skeptics alive in conversations. So I think the skeptics may take the opportunity to attempt to ban his work, but his work speaks volumes for itself. So, and I have tremendous respect for him attempting to get the word out and open up science, set science free, as he says.
And for my piece of Arnest's question, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what the criteria is. I've never been asked to do a TED Talk. I highly doubt I'll ever be asked to do a TED Talk. Like I mentioned, I've seen some things that I thought were, why is this a TED Talk? And I shouldn't pick on anybody, so I'm not going to mention the ones that I'm thinking of right now. But I can't answer to you why anybody justifies their decisions about anything. All I can do is do this show every week, have interesting guests on, and talk about what they're working on, their stories, and not worry about why somebody else does something to someone else. Anyway, boy, another long-winded answer to a question I shouldn't have even tried to answer in the first place. We are up against it. Dr. Larry Burk, if you can talk to us once again about what's in the hopper. You did mention a second book. If you could talk a little bit about that before we sign off, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun getting the call-ins and the emails. And next book would be a collection of more stories that we're receiving all the time. Now that the first book is getting a lot of circulation. And just this past week at the Hayden Institute Dream Conference, I met a guy who had pancreatic cancer, and his story is going to be in the next book. He's still alive 3 years later and being continually guided by his dreams. And I will mention that it seems like it's a good prognostic factor. If you can dream about your cancer, you may be able to use your dreams to heal it. Because of all the people in the book, the only one who's died is the woman whose doctor dismissed her dream as being not significant. So I think that's a hopeful point to think. If you can, tune in, use your dreams for diagnosis, you can use them for healing too.
And as far as your travel goes, you're going to be on the West Coast predominantly for the balance of this month and at least in your future. The Doctors is going to be taped this week, but we're not sure when that's going to come out.
And the other thing I'll mention is I do workshops at the Monroe Institute in Virginia, outside of Charlottesville, on medical intuition and symbolic healing. And we do dream sharing sessions every morning there before we go into the rest of the intuitive exercises during the day are done with the HemiSync tapes guided by my medical intuitive colleague, Winter Robinson. And that information is on my website as well.
Awesome.
That'll be September 29th through October 5th.
And then again, you're going to be here. I say here because Toronto's only a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I'm broadcasting. You're going to be there in October as well. And again, remind us what that conference was about.
Yeah, the 18th through the 22nd of October, the Canadian Energy Psychology Conference. And that link is on my website as well. And that'll be focused on tapping, but I'll be doing 4 presentations, a pre-conference workshop on EFT for symbolic healing, of physical illnesses, a special keynote on dreams. Another one of my favorite topics is transforming symptoms and healthcare using a near-death experience model. And then we're also going to be doing a panel discussion on what we call one-minute wonders, or people who are healed in one session of tapping from a problem they've had for a long time. So we're going to talk about how the magic happens, which is based on the title of my first book from 2012, was Let Magic Happen, Adventures in Healing with a Holistic Radiologist.
And that book also available at letmagichappen.com, as is your latest.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Larry Burk, I hope that you enjoyed yourself. I had a blast, and I know our listeners did as well. And thanks to everybody who called in. Let's stay in touch. Please hold on the line while I wrap things up. But thank you so much for coming on a Sunday night. I know how taxing that can be when we do have work the next day. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Edge of the Unknown.
Excellent. It was really worth it. Thanks.
All right, hold tight, and we'll be right back with you once we wrap things up here. Ladies and gents, yes, I know, we're at that time again. We have to cancel things. And for the guy who called me a pussy because I'm not doing 3 hours anymore, I appreciate the fun little slight there. And, oh, wait a minute, it was from Simon. Simon's from the UK. Who cares? He likes soccer. His opinions are null and void. No, I'm teasing. Yeah, maybe I'll go back to 3 hours someday, guys, but not right now. So we're sticking with the 8 to 10 on Sunday evenings. It has been a blast. I hope everybody enjoyed my guest, Dr. Larry Burk. Again, go and check out his book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. LetMagicHappen.com. All of his events that he just covered, the books, all of that is there for you. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks again to my guest, Dr. Larry Burk. We're going to be back next week with Cheryl Costa. We're going to be doing UFO talk, UFOs and statistical evidence. That is going to be a blast. You can get a hold of me all week long. Send me an email with your questions, comments, suggestions for guests at theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. Everybody have a great week. Once again, thanks to Mark 9 of Houston, Texas for providing music to The Edge. And everybody, be excellent to each other. Remember to be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything. A ghost, a monster, or the guy next door. You've been listening to The Edge of the Unknown. My name is Mark. My guest this week, Dr. Larry Burk. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.